If you are ever ghosted, cheated, or abandoned, this is for you. One of the biggest problems I see in failing relationship is that one part always assumes that their needs are the same as their partner, that the way they should be treated is the same, leaving the other side miserable and not motivated to keep the relationship going. And this comes from the idea that men and women are the same. Away with that crap. It's complete. You have two people who live, operated, and get treated in completely different ways from childhood to adulthood. So their ideas of happiness will be different. And this is key to make relationships work. Because if you can give them what they need, there's actually no reason for them to not be with you and not fulfill your needs. You don't get to demand that, you motivate that behavior. And if you don't want to make an effort, just turn gay. But for those who do want to make it work, you need to understand that the love, goals, and happiness of the opposite sex are completely different than yours. It might look the same, but I can assure you that they are different. And this will explain a lot of behaviors that you couldn't understand before. Where you might have thought they were overreacting, it might have been completely justified from their sides, leading into the situations you suffer with. And this is for you to stop making the same mistakes in your relationships and suffering without really knowing why. So I will divide this into 3 points, and I will separate this into these 2 signals. This for women and this for men. Before starting, I would like to ask you to subscribe as it helps me. And if you want to stop getting hurt and always asking why, click the notification bell as I will go through every single thing in order to help you get the best relationship. And share, because if you have had bad relationship and divorced parents, you know how much it sucks, so it might help someone. I want to start with environments and how different it is for men and women and how it shapes their behavior. So a young woman starts with all the attention she wants as young as 16. That's her peak socially, where all her feelings are validated. Most people will be attracted to her, and most people will accept any behavior she has, no matter how wrong it is. They will still get all the attention they want, really. That's why sometimes you see these completely delusional women. It's not bad parenthood or bad character, it's just a product from their own environment, really. And that's also why some young women respond so harshly to critiques, because it's so opposite to what they experience that it feels like it's an attack. And all of this attention comes while she has nothing to give, because she's young. But women are also aware of this, that they are being lied to, they just don't know who. That's why some women are so adamant on honesty. It's them craving the thing that the guys who want to sleep with her and the girlfriend who wants to keep being their friend won't give her the truth. So it becomes a very tricky environment to learn what's right and what's wrong. Because you have half the world lying to you, saying you are right and perfect just to please you. And if you believe those lies, of course you won't be able to know which behaviors lead to which results. And you feel powerless, leading to a victim mindset. That's why simps are so bad for women, because they will feed every delusion she has in order to get a shred of physical contact, creating these full-blown monsters who believe everything they do is right and hurting others is justified. That's also why so many women tread carefully, why they are so cautious of others. Their instinct is right. So you need to understand that and be patient with them instead of blaming them for being too stuck up. The guy who will ruin her life is right around the corner. He just doesn't know who. So always tell the truth no matter how harsh it is. Because that's the only thing women between the 20s and 30s don't get. And that's what they need in order to gain control over their environments. But those perks end after 30. Because the value that came from her appearances is lost to younger women. And if they didn't learn the behaviors that promote respect and cooperation, their life just becomes a never ending fight. That's why so many cultures push women to get married before 30. It's in order to ease that transition with someone who has already been through that, which is a man's environment. So men just get since as young as 10 maybe. Just observe a young boy and a young girl and see who gets insulted first, even threatened. And before you say that's wrong, know that men are more prone to physical violence. So it's more important to point that their behavior matters earlier. And if you think a teenage boy is harmless, just go look who started the First World War. But when you see young men treating you without respect, it's just them treating others the same way they are treated. You really don't have to be offended by it. They are actually the ones who have to live in it. But with this, men get the truth much earlier. That what they are carries no value, what they do does, which is the opposite of what's told to women. And this allows men to navigate much better through the environment. So it's not that men have it better, they have it worse and they get acclimatized to it. And that allows men to take higher risks for better pay. If you still don't believe me, know that 80% of men in dating apps get 0 likes out of 1,000. And the last 20% get all the likes from all the women. And this makes men crave one thing, which is respect. Because, like women, is the only thing they don't get in their environment. It's not a dumb alpha move, really. But the reality is, men get rejected, insulted, and ignored until they can bring value to the table. And that's really how we have the society we have. It's just men working hard enough to be respected. The world doesn't care about them otherwise. Now let's talk about how differently men and women experience emotions.
Wait for it.
It will all make sense. I will start with men because that's the part I see most people misunderstand. So the only way men experience emotions is through physical touch. The only time they really feel something is when they get touched. That's the only way you can actually provoke a feeling of love and safety for them. And the rest is the same as not there. So words, actions, and pictures don't really mean anything to us. If they are very starved for emotional connection, this will express itself in crazy desire for sex. Because that's the situation where most amounts of physical touch occurs. That's how you get the pervert you see on dating apps. But that's why demonifying a man's need for touch is so wrong. It's the same as rejecting their emotional needs and push them into an environment where cheating occurs. And I have seen this. The women who are most cheated on are always the ones who over-idolize their own idea of love, which is solely based on them, making any needs from the guy be rejected firmly, motivating them to go look elsewhere. So no, most men don't want to use you for their own pleasure, it's just the way they experience emotions. I would argue that the guys who do want to use you are actually the ones who don't need any of it, which are the 20% I talked about earlier. Because for them, there's actually no need to keep being faithful. What you can give, they can get it elsewhere. It's easier for them to cheat than not to cheat. But these are the men which most women will go to, making the majority of women perceive men as evil from a small percentage. You are the one in control, really. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you touched your man? When you are watching a movie, where are your hands? On your phone or on him? When you talk about important stuff? Are you touching him? But this is how you motivate men to fight for your needs, where you create an emotional bond, which you can use to negotiate for what you want out of the relationship. This is how you create the safety you crave so much, where it isn't only your heart at risk, but theirs too. It doesn't really have to be a game where only you are at risk. We will continue this video next week. Meanwhile, think about what I said, because it takes a while to shift how you think. But this will help you be better to each other instead of complaining that your partner doesn't understand you, which is the goal. To not fight, but how to be happy, you know? See you next week.